Now, Sports Talk with Brodes. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Brodes. I got exactly what I wanted. I wanted to see the Sixers get the same exact looks as the last game against the Raptors to see if making the shots was the difference. And if you didn't realize, it absolutely was. Now, I hated what occurred down the stretch, and there is a problem with this team that they don't know how to fully close yet. They constantly allow teams to stay engaged and to squeak in late when you should step on their throats, annihilate a squad, and put them away. Don't even allow them the opportunity to somewhat hold in there. I thought the Sixers throughout majority of the game kept that 12, 13, 14-point lead nicely because they were able to shoot the rock out by the perimeter. They knocked down 17 threes. They shot 44.7% from that area, which is absolutely a difference maker in the outcome. The Raptors threw the same looks at Joel Embiid, all right? He was flustered. He wasn't able to get into any sort of rhythm. As soon as he got the ball in an area on the floor, here comes 2, 3 players to get it out of his hands. The difference, though, is when you have the proper personnel that's able to connect, it's not as easy because Furkan Korkmaz delivered, which was nuts. Never doubted him. Never doubted him. He had 16 points in the first quarter, which the Raptors had 18, so he almost matched what the team total was for Toronto. You had Tobias Harris. You had Mike Scott. You had Shake Milton. You had Danny Green. You had teammates delivering and cashing in, so it makes it not as bad when Joel has to get the ball out of his hands. Now, the problem is he had 6 turnovers. The problem is there was poor decision-making throughout this game, and when the game is on the line, they seem to get nervous. They seem to try something stupid. Danny Green, I don't know what you were thinking there in the fourth quarter, but you need to learn how to just dominate a team down the stretch. And that bothers me, and it's just something that I see a lot. We've seen it against the Lakers. We've seen it against the Charlotte Hornets. We've seen it multiple times, too many times, and I know it's part of the learning process. And I understand when you have young players and when you have young stars, they need to experience this. They need to go through this. They need repetition at it, too. It's not like, oh, you did it one time? Okay, now you know how to do it every single time. There's going to be different games thrown their way. There's going to be different scenarios on different nights. There's going to be different players and different schemes that will change these late quarter moments, these late fourth quarter stretches. So it's all one big learning curve, but I do feel that they should be turning the page. And I guess, and I bring this up a lot when they do win ugly, the difference between this year and last year, they would lose these games. Now, they're allowing teams to find their rhythm and score points late, and they're getting outscored in moments, and they're making bad passes late, which are all inexcusable, and it all needs to change. But the difference here now is they are still holding on. They are still clinching on to this win, and they move out of Tampa or Florida or wherever the hell they are, Toronto, with the win. And at the end of the day, that's what matters most. But now that this has occurred multiple times, the alerts are going off in my brain. Now I really need to dissect and study late game situations more and more because it has been a red flag. There is no denying that. And I'm scared of this matchup. I know the Raptors don't have a superstar, which makes me feel that they can't do real damage in the postseason because the NBA is all about having that special talent, as the Raptors should know. Kawhi Leonard brings you a championship. Kawhi Leonard leaves. You are now who you once were before Kawhi Leonard got there, which was a good playoff team, a good regular season team, but you can't execute when you don't have that next level, that next tier player. That's just reality of the league. But this matchup concerns me because it's clearly not Marc Gasol. It's clearly not Brett Brown's fault. It's not Doc Rivers' fault. You know, Joel Embiid can be better in certain situations out there with decision making, but when they attack you the way that they do, you don't want to throw up bad shots. I saw some contested shots where Baines is on him out by the perimeter and he's airballing. Now, when that happened, there was a possession very close to that where with the shot shot clock winding down. He had a step-back three and ended up cashing in from even a farther distance from that poor shot selection one, which, hey, I mean, tip your cap, you made it there. But my point is, when the Raptors give you this, hey, we're going to triple team you, we're going to double team you, we're going to make you, if you feel like shooting, we're going to make it very uncomfortable and bad. Well, you can't elect to do that. So Joel Embiid's options are limited. It's make a smart pass to your team, allow them to swing, and then see if they can drill it. You can see the ball movement is there. It looked very similar to their first game against the Raptors. Absolutely the same way. But what ended up happening was the ball was going through the hoop. And that allowed you to have a solid lead. I also thought their defense, specifically early, was tremendous. It seemed like they were dialed in. It seemed like they were ready to go. It seemed like they were on a mission and wanted to make a statement with their defense. That somewhat dwindled away, and I thought during that fourth quarter there were some open looks for the Raptors, and they got some buckets that should not have happened. But I did feel like their defense at one point was what allowed them to consistently hold that lead and hold it for stretches. But the late game problems were absolutely a thing, right? So with about 7 minutes to go, I thought there was a strong play for the Sixers that I noted in my head as maybe that one stretch, that one play that would help solidify the win. And even though it got worse after this, I feel that this 3-play stretch was, in theory, what allowed them just to have enough to hold on. So it started with Joel Embiid on an offensive possession, trying to kick it out when he was on the block. It was a turnover. Tobias couldn't handle it. It went out of bounds, so the Raptors were on an offensive possession after the turnover. Pascal Siakam gets Joel Embiid up at the top, and he does this cocky dribble as if he wanted to take on Joel Embiid, as if he was accepting that one-on-one battle. Pascal Siakam drives, puts his shoulder down, goes to the rim, and Joel Embiid meets him there for a monster block. What ends up happening on the other side is Shake Milton buries a three. So it was poor by the offensive possession to start things off, but Embiid backed it up and supported with such a good block, and he didn't allow that offensive possession to really mess with what he was going to do and his effort level on the defensive side to meet someone like Pascal Siakam at the rim in that moment after just having such a bad play offensively the other possession. I love that mentality. I love the fact that he put it behind him and he just went out there and made that stop possession by possession. It's all about that possession, and it was huge. Now, the problem is after that, Siakam hit a three on the other side, but Toby matched it. And then Danny Green got fouled out by the perimeter, and he didn't hit all of his free throws, but just the fact that he was able to slow the game down, get to the line, have an opportunity to score points, that was big. Boucher gets a wide open three. Now the lead is cut to 6. And this is where things got a little bit shaky. This is where things got murky. And I was definitely getting nervous. It did have a feel that the Raptors were going to find a way, that they were going to snag it. Well, because this Sixers team is prior to this game, 5-25 in their last 30 against the Toronto Raptors. Now, keep in mind, a lot of that was when it was the process years, and a lot of that was when this team was throwing out slop to lose on purpose. But even as the recent years started to play out, if you look at their regular season records of the 4 games that they play against each other, you got 1 win for the Sixers, so 1-3, 1-3, 1-3. The Raptors absolutely have their number, and it is a mental side of the game, for sure. There is this mental issue with this team when they see that logo, when they see those unis, when they see the black and red, and you're going to have to change that because who knows, maybe this is a matchup that you see at some point. At some point, this Raptors team is starting to become a better version of themselves. They started out the season so putrid, but eventually they turned the page and they found themselves getting into a little bit more of a rhythm. Tobias Harris, though, down the stretch, I thought he had some big buckets. He made some really nice takes to the basket, and he was strong, and he was your most efficient player. We learned before the game that he was not going to be in the All-Star game, and he is one of those players that's on the edge. I know everyone's outraged because of how efficient he has been and how big he has been this year, and he has played such a key part of this team being the first seed in the Eastern Conference. But I understand him not being in there as well. When you look at who made the roster, yes, towards the end of that bench and towards the end of the reserves, everyone can have the debate on first in compared to the first out. I can see Tobias getting in and squeaking in. I can also see Tobias Harris not being in and missing out. So it doesn't really bother me too much. I understand the bias in this city and the bias by the analysts and the bias from Doc Rivers and Ben Simmons. That's just sticking up for your teammate and saying, of course he deserves to. But he's on the edge. He's an on-the-bubble type of guy. You can make the case for him. You can make the case without him. And you can make the case for everybody else who made the All-Star game as well. It doesn't bother me too much. I understand why he didn't. But at the end of the day, he was very strong in this performance, and he finished with 23, 7, and 5, and he was 8 of 12 from the field. So he was absolutely dynamic, and he did have some tougher takes later in the game, which helped this team somewhat run away with it. How about Nick Nurse, though, calling timeout? Let's go, Nick! Huh? You think I got all night? I got things to do, buddy. You're going to make this thing drag out. You're losing the damn basketball game. Please, for my sanity, for your sanity, for everybody else watching. Hell, for Furkan Korkmaz, because he needs a rest after that explosive first quarter. When Seth Curry was not going to start the game due to the ankle, and I saw Furkan get in there, I knew why Doc Rivers did it. I understood the philosophy. Seth Curry is a spacer. Seth Curry is someone who helps out with spacing, and he can hang out by the three-point line. So just throw someone who does that role in that spot instead of trying to mess around with everything. And then you can keep everybody else in their roles. You don't have to move Shake Milton and move other guys. Everyone can stay in their roles, and then you just implement a Furkan for Seth Curry. I'll be honest, though, I didn't see that coming. He was shooting 30% from 3 entering the night, and he has been an embarrassment. He's been bad. It was almost getting ready for the Isaiah Joe show. If Shake Milton was available for this game, you can make the argument that Furkan Korkmaz would have never even played, and Isaiah Joe would have snagged all of his minutes, and then Furkan wouldn't have even had the opportunity to go out there and knock down the shots. And maybe he knew that. Maybe he felt that. Maybe he felt lucky. Maybe he felt like, hey, the basketball gods are giving me this chance. I got to make sure that I make the most of it. He drilled his shots tonight. Now, do I think that's who he is going to be? I think we all know the answer to that. But it was big, and it was a reason why this team was able to get out to the start that they did. For him to be that electric, for him to be that smooth, nothing but net, and you hear the swoosh, and you have the amplified intense microphones around the net, so when it does cash in there, when it hits nothing but the net, you hear that beautiful swoosh sound. And it happened a couple times with Furkan Korkmaz drilling his threes for that crazy first quarter. Everyone loved it. It's so funny. I saw the reaction prior. What is Doc doing? What an idiot. What a moron. I can't believe him. And then after Furkan starts off the way that he does, everyone was praising it. And it's just funny to me. That's all. It's just super funny. 6 turnovers for Joel Embiid. He was 1 of 8 after the first half. He was 3 of 13 with 18 points. And as I mentioned before, some really tough moments, some really ugly shots, really forcing things. And if the Raptors are going to continue to force you to take the ball out of your hands, you might have to just allow for that to happen, because now you have a team that you should be able to trust to execute. I could understand, and he even said this before. Joel Embiid stated this earlier in the season when the team was clicking and running off a lot of wins and they were playing smooth basketball. The difference now is spacing. The difference now is the roster makes sense. When he kicks it out of a double team, he feels more confident in his teammates, where years past and years prior, he felt like he had to do everything and he would have to take those shots and he would have to deliver. In this situation, you can't do that. The Raptors are fully taking you away. So you can't absolutely say to yourself, this is me. I'm going to do it. I'm here for this. Because that's exactly what the Raptors want you to do. You are going to have to rely on your teammates. Teams are going to take away a player who's playing at an MVP level. Now, MVP level players and coaches as well do need to find a way to schematically do a better job to get Joel Embiid more comfortable in certain areas. I know it's not easy, but that has to be part of the counter punch. Can you live with relying on your shooters every single time? Well, every single time it's not going to work because there will be nights where your shooters have an off night like in game one. You can't rely on this every single night. There are going to be times where you have to do a better job pouncing on their defensive scheme and find a way to counter it to get Joel Embiid in open areas and to get him to open spots on the floor and maybe to get plays going for him to be able to take shots, because you can't just allow the opponent to take away your top guy at ease, at will, whenever they want to. There's going to be possessions where that happens. That's inevitable. That's basketball. There will be good defensive possessions for the Raptors that will make Joel Embiid really uncomfortable. I do think there needs to be a good balance, though. Find your possessions where you can get Joel Embiid the rock and get Joel Embiid to operate where he can run his game. But also, okay, fine. You're going to take away Joel? Find that right moment to kick it to the closest guy out by the arc. Let the team swing the basketball to the open guy. Look, I know the Raptors are very strong at bouncing back. And what I mean by that, not so much about a game, if they lose a game, bouncing back the next game. I'm talking about their recovery. Defensively, their recovery. And that's why they can do what they do to Joel Embiid, because their team defense is stellar. It's crazy to think, though, that this team has it dialed in. This team has it. They have the blueprint. And I know teams are going to watch what the Raptors do, and they're going to try and implement a version of this when things matter. So I hope Doc Rivers comes with the counter punch. I hope this team remembers this, sees this on film, they embrace what's happening, so then they can come together. All right, this is our game plan. This is what we're going to do, because you will see this again. Just like when you realized the 2-3 zone worked for the Sixers defensively with Matisse Thybulle and Ben Simmons up at the top, you'll see that again. I guarantee it. They're absolutely going to utilize that method again. Well, same with this. No matter what team it is, you see a team finally slow down this monster in Embiid, yeah, that's going to be recognized for sure. Before we take your phone calls, I want to let everybody know about my friends over at Orbit Energy and Power. With over 20 years of experience in the solar industry, they are home to your solar experts in residential and commercial projects. They are dedicated to making sure that your project is completed easily and properly by using high-quality materials and trained professionals to get the job done right. Their solar program eliminates your electric bill completely by offering flexible financing solutions such as $0 down. They also provide water purification systems, backup energy services, battery storage, and more. So check out their information. It is all down below in the description. I really have no idea what to expect from the calls, because I do see the reaction of, I can't believe this team. I can't believe how they constantly do this. I don't know why they can't finish squads off. I hate this. I feel like they're going to lose when it matters because of this. They have to be better. But then I also see the appreciation side of, look, the game plan worked tonight. And it was funny. I was asked on Coffee with Brodes about last game what Doc Rivers needed to do to change their offensive scheme, considering they weren't able to score last game. Did you watch the game? What do you mean, what do they have to change? They couldn't they couldn't draw open looks up better than what they did. They didn't have to change anything schematically. They had to shoot better. They had to score more. They had to make sure that the ball actually went through the rim. But you're not going to draw up any better looking opportunities than what they had. And you saw that in today's game. These shots that they took, they were extremely similar to what happened in game one. Schematically, it wasn't much different. Right? Come on. Can't you see that? But I am curious what the reaction is going to be. Is it going to be the pissed off mode? Or is it going to be all right, look, they got the win. It was ugly, but they won. This team is still winning. It might not all be gorgeous wins, but this team is still winning. What is the reaction going to be? Is it going to be 50-50? Is it going to be 70-30? Let's find out.
I'm happy they won. I'm happy that all those annoying Raptors fans in the comment section don't get to gloat after another game. But at the end of the day, this game should not have been this close, and it definitely should have ended about 20 minutes before it actually did. I'm happy they won, and let's move on to the next game. Let's keep this momentum going.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel I'm in the same exact boat. I'm not proud that it happened the way that it did. All right, I'm not jumping up for joy when I watch the fourth quarter issues continue to occur. All right, I've seen it too many times, so I'm bothered by it. But they did win the game. And they did so many good things throughout the first 40 minutes of the game. Maybe 40 is a little strong. But of the 48 minutes, let's say 32, 34 minutes of that basketball game, they did excellent stuff. They played hard defense. They knocked down their shots. They moved the basketball well. Now, look, there were definitely too many turnovers as a whole throughout. But they still did a lot of things out there that were strong that I don't think should be forgotten just because of maybe a 21-8 run that occurred later on. I get it. Late moments matter more. The intensity matters more. If you're going to shrivel up with 8 minutes to go, with 7 minutes to go, with 6 minutes to go, that's something that you possibly can take away and tie together to playoff moments. There's not a lot of things that I take from regular season to playoffs, but that could absolutely be one. That's one that's definitely on my list of things to worry about because the lights are shining more and brighter in May and June. So if it's going to get to your head now, yeah, no, there should be question marks there, definitely.
Solid bounce-back win tonight for the Philadelphia 76ers against a team that, they're scrappy. They're going to outwork you. I don't think they're particularly talented, but they have very good coaching, and, they're going to out-hustle you and play some really gritty defense. As for the defense on Joel Embiid, I think that's more of a personnel and a really specific strategy because no one else that doubles him has been that effective. So it's kind of hard to think that will be some whole game-changing thing. Nice to see Furkan get a nice little rebound quarter. He can be a useful regular season player. As for Ben Simmons, I like some things I saw from him. He set up some teams pretty nicely, and he was aggressive at points. I hope we don't start getting back into the non-aggressive range.
Yeah, with Ben, his game didn't bother me. He didn't make me want to pull my hair out. Have I seen him be more aggressive as of late? Yeah, there's no denying that. But I think because of the way Embiid was played, that factored into how Ben Simmons was able to play as well because the perimeter shots were wide open. I mentioned how they shot 37 threes last game, very close to that. They shot 38 in this game. So the way that Embiid was played defensively, that somewhat limits Ben Simmons because you're going to have so many perimeter shots that they are going to try and use. So I'm not going to scream and rant about Ben in this one. I'm happy that he's playing the way that he has since the start of the month. The fact that he's shooting 80% from the line, I would have never imagined in a million years we would see anything close to that. So I am so pumped up about it. It's outstanding. Terrific, really. And I just want to see him continue to go to the line with confidence and to feel like he can do it perfectly when he stands up at that line. That is not what used to go through his mind. I think what used to go through his mind was, shit, I can't believe I need to do this. Or, damn it, I better not miss these shots. Now it's, give me the fucking basketball. Give me the fucking basketball. And that's what I love out of Ben as of late. So this game, while it might not be the most downhill Ben Simmons we've ever seen, I think the way the game played out, it makes sense for him in this specific night not to be the most Ben Simmons aggressive version of himself, if that makes sense. But I felt like there was another thing you hit on that I wanted to talk about. Oh, yes, that's right. So the caller mentioned how this isn't some game-changing future plan that can stop Joel Embiid. He thinks it's more of a matchup. And there's no doubt that when you watch playoff basketball, there's teams that can go farther if they benefit from a matchup in the playoffs that works best for them. Like, there's teams that make it farther because maybe that second-round matchup favored them, but if they would have seen another team in that second round, they wouldn't have been able to get by. That is obvious, and we've seen that happen with many teams over the last recent years. I feel, though, that you can look at the tape here and you can use other teams that have other players, different personalities, different personnel, and still get something done just like the Raptors did. You can use that tape. Tape comes in heavily when it comes to 7-game series. And I know this is going to be implemented no matter who plays the Sixers. So I do think that it's damaging. I do.
Yo, bro, it's a good win, I guess. Not very exciting, to be honest. I want to focus on a major problem I've seen with this team throughout the season. It's the way they close quarters. Like, no matter the lineup on the floor, it seems like this team is dead set on riding up a 10-0 run whenever the quarter's about to end. And I'm starting to get disgusted by how bad it can get. I feel like every opponent's scouting report says, in all caps, play your heart out at the end of a quarter because the Sixers turn into a middle school team.
That's a great point. It really is. Now, I wrote down as soon as you said that, I'm going to check my notes here because during the game I threw it in my phone notepad. There was a problem closing out that first half. Absolutely. Big time problem closing out that first half. And then what else was there? Very sloppy turnovers for sure. And then, another thing I wanted to bring up. It's a lineup that Doc Rivers consistently throws out there that I think does not work. In the fourth quarter, you saw Ben Simmons, Shake Milton, Matisse Thybulle, Mike Scott, Dwight Howard. How many times do we need to point out that this Ben Simmons, Matisse Thybulle, Dwight Howard combination is something that doesn't really benefit this team? The lack of spacing is a problem. You are not generating enough offense with those three out there. And this somewhat sparked a run out of the Toronto Raptors. You need to be better. It's like you see that it's not working. You see that it's not effective. You look at the ratings when they are on the court together. Can we please stop drilling that out there? Can we stop putting it in play? You're talking about fourth quarter? Fourth quarter, you want to use that? You gotta go down a different path. You have to try something new. You've tried it too many times. There's enough sample size for you to be aware that Ben Matisse and Dwight Howard causes a lot of problems. Now, does that mean every single possession is the worst ever? No. There are times where, because you saw it in that first game against the Raptors, where there was a big-time play by Ben Simmons out by the perimeter, which then forced the Sixers in transition to have a big slam by Ben, and that was a nice momentum change. That was a nice play with them on the floor. But guess what? There's a lot more bad ones than there are good ones. We need to seriously change that up. It's something that I can't stand out of Doc Rivers. But the caller makes a fantastic point that play your heart out at the end of quarters because this team lets up, because this team allows you to crawl back in. Put the clamps on!
This game is over. Stop fouling. Why is this game still going? Hey, Brodes. You know, the Sixers somehow just find a way to make the easiest, just in-the-bag wins a joke sometimes. And, you know, they played a good game, but this is just funny. Hey, it's a win is a win. Great all-around game. You know, I'm not worried about Joel.
All right, so we have some that are not upset about Joel. They're not worried about they could be upset with Joel, but they're not worried about the problems because they see that Joel Embiid destroys every opponent except for this one. Just keep an eye out. That's all. Just keep an eye out for what is going to happen. And you might not see it for the rest of the regular season. Teams could be holding it in the bag for a reason. Holding it in the back pocket just when you need to utilize it, you'll use it then. Don't show your cards in regular season matchups, and that's absolutely something that occurs when you talk about matchups. Brad Stevens isn't going to show you his hand, all right? It's the reality of the situation. Eric Spoelstra won't show you his hand. You're going to have ideas, you're going to have concepts, you're going to make sure it's saved for the most crucial moments. So who knows what happens along the way in regular season games. And Nick Nurse somewhat showed his hands, but he also showed that it works, and it doesn't seem like Doc Rivers has that punch, except unless Doc Rivers is holding on to that. Unless Doc Rivers thinks, all right, look, who cares about this game? Because if we ever match up against them in May or June, in the second round or whatever, whenever we see them, if we ever see them, let's just keep this. I have an idea. I have plans. Trust me. Maybe he does. Maybe he does have that counter that he's waiting to use at the right moments.
What's up, Brodes? What if I told you that Furkan Korkmaz would score more points in a game than Joel Embiid? I'm just playing. I had to get you riled up a little bit. Great game by the Sixers. Really happy. Almost choked it away there at the end. I don't know what Danny Green is doing, thinking when he's dribbling the ball. I need him to stop doing that.
Yeah, you're definitely not wrong. The Twitter sphere was not happy with Danny Green in those final moments. But as I was listening to that caller have some fun, throwing out Furkan Korkmaz and trying to throw some shade at me to piss me off, which just thinking about Furkan Korkmaz gets the hairs on my arms sticking up and I get pissed. But I was thinking about what I said about Doc Rivers maybe holding on to a certain philosophy. And here's why I think that might not be the case. Even though I said that might be the case, now I'm thinking it might not be, but maybe it is, but maybe it won't be. Maybe there is something, maybe there's not though. And here's why I think there might not be, and this might be something that Doc Rivers does. Keeps it the same. He is so big on, if you can't stop us doing something, we're not going to change. And if he sees what I've seen, which was wide open looks in both nights, you're getting wide open looks in both nights. You are. You're getting great scoring chances. You're getting grade A looks. You can't get better looks than some of the ones that you are getting when the Raptors bring that intensity defensively. So he might look at it as, you know what? Fine. Do that. If that's what you want to do, you want to give Tobias and Seth and Furkan and the Danny Green and anybody else, Shake Milton, wide open looks, fine. Because I've seen our team make those shots, and when they do make those shots, we win the basketball game. So that's part of what Doc Rivers has done to this point. If you don't stop us, we will do it. We will do it over and over and over again. And this is a product of getting the wide open looks. We're going to constantly do this. If you're going to double Joel, we're going to pass the ball around. We're going to get these open looks. We're going to run it down your throats. And at that point, you just got to pray and hope that your team cashes in. And that's the difference in the win or loss. It's just making your shots. You make your shots, you win. If you don't, you lose. It's that simple. Can't get much easier than that. Make your threes, win the game. Miss your threes, lose the game. You going to roll the dice on that when it comes to this team with their personnel right now as we speak? Well, that's another question. Is that the best method to do it? I don't know. Only time will tell. For the Raptors, though, Powell was the leading scorer with 24 points. You had that play by Ben Simmons that, did the refs miss a call? Maybe. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. But look, with that being said, we're going to close it out here. Thank you guys all so much for listening. Good win for the Sixers, and I will see you next time.